In a New York City town hall, an 18-year-old kid from a ghetto is being investigated for purportedly cutting his dad to death. Last shutting contentions having been introduced, a noticeably exhausted judge educates the jury to conclude whether the kid is at fault for homicide. In the event that there is any sensible uncertainty of his responsibility, they are to return a decision of not liable. The adjudicator further illuminates them that a blameworthy decision will be joined by an obligatory capital punishment. The jury resigns to a confidential room, where the hearers spend a brief time getting familiar before they start pondering. It is quickly obvious that the members of the jury have proactively concluded that the kid is liable, and that they intend to return their decision without getting some margin for conversation, with the sole exemption of hearer 8, Henry Fonda, who is the as it were not blameworthy vote in a starter count. He makes sense of that there is a lot in question for him to oblige the decision without basically discussing it first. His vote bothers different legal hearers, particularly member of the jury 7, Jack Superintendent, who passes to a ball game that night, and hearer 10, Ed Begley Sr., who accepts that individuals from ghetto foundations are liars, wild, and perilous. The remainder of the film's center is the jury's trouble in arriving at a consistent decision. While a few of the hearers harbor individual biases, member of the jury 8 keeps up with that the proof introduced for the situation is conditional, and that the kid merits a fair thought. He raises doubt about the exactness and dependability of the main two observers to the homicide, the extraordinariness of the deadly weapon, a typical switchblade, of which he has an indistinguishable duplicate, and the by and large problematic conditions. He further contends that he might honestly at any point vote liable when he feels there is sensible uncertainty of the kid's culpability. Having contended a few focuses and gotten no good reaction from the others, hearer 8 hesitantly concurs that he has just prevailed with regards to hanging the jury. All things being equal, he demands another vote, this time by secret polling form. He suggests that he will go without casting a ballot, and in the event that the other 11 members of the jury are as yet consistent in a liable vote, he will submit to their choice. The mystery polling form is held, and a new not blameworthy vote shows up. This acquires serious analysis from hearer 3, Lee J. Cobb, who unmitigatedly charges hearer 5, Jack Klugman, who had experienced childhood in a ghetto of changing out of compassion for ghetto youngsters. In any case, member of the jury 9, Joseph Sweeney, uncovers that he, at the end of the day, changed his vote, feeling that legal hearer 8's focuses merit further conversation. Member of the jury 8 presents a persuading contention that one of the observers, an old man who professed to have heard the kid shout "I will kill you" not long from now before the homicide occurred, could never have heard the voices as obviously as he had affirmed because of a raised train taking a break, as well as expressing that "I will kill you" is frequently said by individuals who don't in a real sense would not joke about this. Attendant 5 changes his vote to not blameworthy. Before long subsequently, hearer 11, George Voskovec, questions whether it is sensible to assume the litigant would have run away from the area, having cleaned the blade of fingerprints however abandoning it, and afterward returned 3 hours after the fact to recover it, having been left in his dad's chest. Member of the jury 11 then changes his vote. Attendant 8 then, at that point, makes reference to the man's subsequent case. After hearing the dad's body hit the floor, he had hurried to the entryway of his loft and seen the litigant running out of the structure from his front entryway in 15 seconds. Legal hearers 5, 6 and 8 inquiry whether this is valid, as the observer being referred to had suffered a heart attack, restricting his capacity to walk. Upon the finish of an examination, the jury finds that the observer could not have possibly come to the entryway in sufficient opportunity to really see the executioner running out. Member of the jury 8 reasons that, according to what he professes to have heard before, the observer should have only accepted it was the respondent running. Member of the jury 3, developing more disturbed in the meantime, detonates in a tirade, "He must consume. He's getting past us." Member of the jury 8 reprimands him, considering him a self-selected public justice fighter and a savage, saying he believes the litigant should bite the dust due to individual longing instead of current realities. Member of the jury 3 yells "I'll kill him," and starts rushing at legal hearer 8, however is controlled by members of the jury 5 and 7. Legal hearer 8 serenely counters, "You don't exactly mean you'll kill me, isn't that right?" making his past statement. Members of the jury 2, John Fiedler, and 6, Edward Binns, additionally choose to cast a ballot not liable, tying the vote at 6-6. Before long, a rainstorm raises a ruckus around town, clearly delaying the ball game for which member of the jury 7 has tickets, subsequently permitting him to unwind and focus with that timetable tension eased. Hearer 4, for example Marshall, keeps on expressing that he doesn't completely accept that the kid's explanation, which was being at the films with a couple of companions at the hour of the homicide, in light of the fact that the kid couldn't recollect what film he had seen when addressed by police soon after the homicide. Attendant 8 makes sense of that being under close to home pressure can cause you to fail to remember specific things, and tests how well Hearer 4 can recollect the occasions of earlier days. Member of the jury 4 recollects, with some trouble, the occasions of the past 5 days, and member of the jury 8 brings up that he had not been under close to home pressure around then. Subsequently there was not a really obvious explanation to figure the kid ought to have the memorable option the points of interest of the film that he professed to have seen. Hearer 2 raises doubt about the arraignment's case that the charged, who was 5 feet 7 inches tall, had the option to cause the descending cut injury found on his dad, who was 6 foot 2. Hearers 3 and 8 lead a trial to check whether it's feasible for a more diminutive individual to wound descending into a taller individual. The examination demonstrates the chance, however member of the jury 5 then, at that point, makes sense of that he had grown up in the midst of blade battles in his area, and shows, through exhibiting the right utilization of a switchblade, that nobody such a great deal more limited than his rival would have held a switchblade so as to cut descending, as the grasp would have been too off-kilter and the demonstration of changing hands also tedious. Rather, somebody that a lot more limited than his rival would wound devious at an upwards point. This disclosure expands the sureness of a few of the hearers in their conviction that the litigant isn't blameworthy. Progressively restless, Attendant 7 changes his vote just with the goal that the thought might end, which procures him the wrath of members of the jury 3 and 11, the two on inverse sides of the conversation. Attendant 11, a settler who has more than once shown solid energetic pride, squeezes member of the jury 7 hard about utilizing his vote pointlessly, and in the end member of the jury 7 concedes that he presently really accepts the respondent isn't liable. The following hearers to change their votes are Attendants 12, Robert Weber, and the jury foreman, Martin Rezin, making the vote 9-3 and leaving just 3 dissidents, members of the jury 3, 4 and 10. Shocked at how the procedures have gone, member of the jury 10 goes into a fury on why individuals from the ghettos can't be relied upon, of how they are minimal better than creatures who joyously kill each other off for no particular reason. His discourse affronts Hearer 5, who turns his back to him, and individually the other members of the jury begin getting some distance from him. Befuddled and upset by this response to his revilement, Hearer 10 go on in a consistently blurring voice and way, easing back and eventually stopping with "Pay attention to me. Listen." Attendant 4, the main man actually confronting him, succinctly answers, "I have." Presently plunk down and don't open your mouth once more. As Hearer 10 maneuvers to sit in a corner without anyone else, member of the jury 8 talks discreetly about the disasters of bias, and different members of the jury gradually continue their seats. While those excess for a liable vote are squeezed with regards to why they actually keep up with that, there is no sensible uncertainty. Hearer 4 expresses his conviction that in spite of the wide range of various proof that has been raised doubt about, the reality stays that the one who saw the homicide from her window across the road, through the passing train, actually remains a strong proof. After he calls attention to this, Attendant 12 changes his vote back to liable, making the vote 8-4. Then, at that point, member of the jury 9, subsequent to seeing legal Hearer 4 rub his nose, which is being bothered by his eyeglasses, understands that, similar to member of the jury 4, the one who supposedly saw the homicide had impressions in the sides of her nose which she scoured, demonstrating that she wore glasses, yet didn't wear them to court out of vanity. Attendant 8 watchfully inquires as to whether he wears his eyeglasses to rest, and member of the jury 4 concedes that he doesn't wear them. No one does. Member of the jury 8 makes sense of that there was in this manner not a great explanation to expect that the observer turned out to be wearing her glasses while attempting to rest, and he brings up that on her own proof the assault occurred so quickly that she could never had opportunity and energy to put them on. After he calls attention to this, Attendants 12, 10 and 4 all change their vote to not blameworthy. As of now, the last member of the jury with a blameworthy vote is Hearer 3. Member of the jury 3 gives a long and progressively tormented series of contentions, finishing with, "Spoiled kids, you resolve your life." This expands on an all the more genuinely irresolute prior disclosure that his relationship with his own child is profoundly stressed, and his outrage regarding this reality is the primary explanation that he maintains that the respondent should be blameworthy. Hearer 3 at long last blows his top and destroys a photograph of himself and his child, then, at that point, unexpectedly separates crying and changes his vote to not liable, making the vote consistent. As the members of the jury leave the room, legal hearer 8 assists the distressed hearer 3 with his jacket in a demonstration of empathy. The film closes when the agreeable attendants 8, Mr. Davis, and 9, Mr. McCardle, trade names, and every one of the members of the jury plummet. The town hall moves toward return to their singular lives. At absolutely no point ever to see each other in the future.